together. So good job. So our next speaker is Mary Robinson. She's the owner of Morro Bay Paddlesports, LLC, a full-service kayak and paddleboard business on the waterfront here in Morro Bay, which she founded in 2015 and manages with her husband, Jim. She's an avid stand-up paddle surfer, a certified stand-up paddle instructor, and a certified California naturalist. And while we're talking about certifications, I also want to mention that Morro Bay Paddlesports was one of the first businesses certified under the Community Active Wildlife Stewards certification program, and we recognize businesses that have demonstrated a high degree of excellence in their stewardship. So yes, she is a certified member of that. She earned her degree in ecology and systematic biology from Cal Poly SLO and worked as a life science exhibit researcher for the California Science Center and later as a teacher for Palos Verdes Unified School District. With that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Mary.
And I think I'm unmuted now. Sorry about that. Thank you for the invite to participate in this discussion, Jenna. And I'm going to take my video off here. Okay, so I own a large rental operation in Morro Bay Harbor here. We've been in business since 2015. What I'm going to do here is just give an idea of what a business can do to minimize the impact of renting recreational craft, how to minimize what we can do to minimize that impact on the local wildlife. So again, we have been in business for about 6 years now, and on the busiest day of this season, we put an estimated 200 people on the water. If you multiply that by 4 of the rental businesses on the waterfront, that is roughly 800 rental craft on the water, potentially on the busiest day. So we definitely have lots of people, but we also have a lot of wildlife, and on a very busy day, it can be pretty hard to avoid one another. As Jenna mentioned, in my previous life, I was a naturalist, educator, biologist, and I am personally involved with education and have a deep concern for our local wildlife. So as soon as we started putting renters on the water, the potential for wildlife impact locally was very, very clear to me. And so I wanted to do all I could do to minimize that impact of our rental operation. This is our location here in Morro Bay. We are about halfway down the harbor, about a mile from the north end, and the north end is where most of the otters hang out. We have a launch dock. We have a small retail space in this building here. Like I said, sometimes there are so many otters, so much wildlife that it is at times difficult to avoid impacting them. This is a picture of Otters off Coleman Beach, which is a very popular launch spot for kayaks and paddle boards. And I just thought this was a good slide to show to let people realize how difficult it can be to avoid the otters. This is kind of an unusual situation. They don't always hang out here, but this is one spot where we do have an issue with contacting otters. Pretty challenging as a business to attempt to alter human behavior and mitigate the impact to wildlife when it comes to launching rental equipment. First off, we already have quite a bit to cover before we even start talking about wildlife avoidance. We need to cover with our renters the hazards, the direction that they should travel, the winds, the tides, And other challenges are that no matter what you tell somebody, people are going to do what they want to do. Renters can have a pretty short attention span. Renters just want to get on their kayaks and get going, so it's difficult to keep their attention, really. Not all businesses give the same message about wildlife avoidance, and so that has made our effort a little bit more challenging as well. We also want to know what the impact is to our business when we do give a strong wildlife message. How is this affecting our business? Are we sending customers elsewhere? Are we losing business? So I wanted to show this map because in addition to the wildlife message, which you're going to see here, this gives you an idea of all the information that we have to cover. This is our orientation, and just the harbor map alone and the tides and winds covering that, that's 10 minutes. Adding the wildlife information is another 5 minutes. So that's this information here. Not only trying to make it fun and informative, but also give that clear message that renters are to stay a minimum distance away. So it might seem like we could cut some of this out and have a shorter orientation, but we have really tried hard, and no, it does take that long to cover all that needs to be covered. We've done a lot over the course of the year to try to make our message and delivery of our wildlife message. One of the things we did recently, thanks to Otters Savvy for providing the graphic panel here, we decided that we could increase information saturation. If we added graphic panels outside the gate, it's about a 5-minute, 10-minute wait outside the gate during the busy summer. And that's time that visitors can be reading. And so this is a chance for them, and they do read this. Visitors are able to spend a couple minutes before they enter the gate to check out the graphic panel, read, and we do know that they do read this. In addition to the graphic panel outside, once they get into our check-in area, our upper dock, this is the check-in window. They do transactions here as well. So they're here for at the front end and when they're done as well. So they've got a couple minutes here as they fill out their waivers to read the graphic panel right next to the window. And if we feel like they haven't seen this information, we do point it out. Hey, did you notice the graphic panel to the right? Could you give a few minutes to, look at, not a few minutes, a few seconds, whatever, 30 seconds. Most people do notice this graphic panel. In addition to graphic panels, we have on the rental agreement that they read, as well as their waiver. This is just a snippet of the rental agreement, and we do actually add this to the rental agreement. So number 12 and 13 of the rental agreement here. So that's a pretty strong message there. And we have stickers on all of our kayaks. So the single kayak has one sticker. We have 2 stickers on the double kayak so that the person in the back seat is actually able to see that. This is Ollie. Ollie is very helpful in kind of softening the message that we give. If we start to get a little bit too militant in our delivery, the Otter definitely kind of makes it more fun, lightens things up. And we use the Otter. We're going to see in just a second how we use the Otter, but we have found that it really helps to engage kids, and kids can be very useful in holding parents accountable when they're out on the water to do the right thing. Once they have the information, then kids will say, hey, we need to back up. We've had some stories of parents coming back to tell us what their children said on the water. It's not about just the marine mammals. We also cover information about the snowy plover closure period between March and September. So we do tell them that during that time, the dunes are closed to foot traffic. And if they wish to go to the other side, traverse the dunes, then there is one location only that we tell them they can use to go to the other side. So we have been through 3 phases of creating our wildlife message. The passive approach, having only signage or only the rental agreement, we felt wasn't working very well. So phase 2, my husband gave me this title, Grünhilde, because it did become very fire and brimstone sounding. Phase 3, we started using all methods of information. It's the signage outside, it is the talk, but we've softened it up. And the rental agreement that they have to read before they sign the waiver. And so we're in phase 4 right now, where we're trying to come up with some ways to reward people instead of just providing a lot of warnings and threats. We want to make them feel like they're going to be rewarded for doing the right thing on the water and having good behavior out on the water. So we're trying to come up with some ideas there. Developing an effective message, we decided that we really wanted to know more about our guests, our renters, and so we conducted a very quick, very short survey research project, and that was just collecting questionnaires from visitors who came up before they came into orientation. And so really, question 6, how likely would you be to use a rental business that required you to maintain a minimum distance from wildlife? That was a primary concern, and we were very happy to find out that 91% of respondents said they were very likely to use a business that requires keeping distance from wildlife. So that's very encouraging. 81% expressed that they were very concerned about the local wildlife. 61% said that they were at least somewhat interested in receiving wildlife information before launching. There were, unfortunately, 16% of those respondents answered that
as you can see,
they did not want to have any wildlife information. So we want to change that. Sorry about the technical difficulty that I had with the video.
Thank you, Mary. We have some questions for you.
Okay.
If you're ready. Helena wants to know, do you let your clients know that sea life stewards are on the water and what they can look for if they have any, that they can look for them if they have any questions? It might let them know they're being watched out there.
We did in previous years. Sea otter, yes. Short answer is yes, we do. I haven't seen sea otter sea life stewards out this year, so don't know if it was mentioned this year, but in previous years we definitely have let them know. And we do let them know that they are being watched. We actually have a pretty good view from where we sit. We have a visual either direction, and so we actually can see where our boats are and if any of our watercraft are in sensitive areas that they shouldn't be in.
Next question. I see a lot of dogs on paddle boards. Do you allow them to take their dogs through your rental company?
That's a very good question too. I had in the past, I've put very strong restraints on dogs on paddle boards and on kayaks. This past year, I do, but they In our rental agreement, it says that dogs must be kept on a leash, and I give a very strong warning about dogs off leash. If they are going to go onto the beach, the dog cannot get off the beach past a certain point.
Next question. When I've rented a jet ski before, you have to review boating guidelines in a provided booklet and pass a written quiz before you're cleared to use the jet ski. Maybe implementing a similar activity that is a little more fun and engaging would help people clearly take in wildlife disturbance info as well as kayaking safety. Is that something that could be implemented?
I had a hard time hearing the question.
I think they're asking, they're saying that when they rented a jet ski, they've had to do a booklet and pass a quiz before they were cleared to take the jet ski out. And they're suggesting and asking if that would be something that could be implemented to improve wildlife safety.
I don't know if that would be feasible in our format. We do have them read a very lengthy cover sheet, the rental agreement, before they sign their waiver. And so it takes quite a bit of time to, like I said, it takes about 15 minutes to brief on everything, including wildlife. I don't know if we could add in any more than we are including in that. I don't see us offering a quiz, but the information that we have on the cover sheet does cover in great detail wildlife issues.
And last question, if someone reports one of your renters as breaking the rules, do you approach them on their return?
Yes, and that was part of the fire and brimstone phase that we were in. We were very, very adamant about following up with people that we knew did not listen. And we did confront, and we do confront people who we know are not complying with the message that we give.
One last question, Mary. Colleen wants to know, how are you able to make sure renters read the rental agreement and not just sign it?
Oh, that's a great question. That's definitely an issue. When the renter comes up to the window to get their waiver, they're handed a clipboard. The rental agreement is on top of that clipboard, and they fill out the rental agreement. They fill out the waiver right there at our window. And so we physically are watching them. They're right in front of us. And if I see a renter take the rental agreement off of the clipboard and start to fill the waiver out before they've read the rental agreement, I ask them to please put the rental agreement back on the top and read it. They are to read it before they sign their waiver. So if I know that someone has not read the cover sheet, I call them on it definitely, and I ask them to read the rental agreement before they sign their waiver.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Before we let Mary go, we have a special presentation to make. This will be the first time that we've done this, and especially in this year when we've had so many perhaps unexpected challenges that face businesses in terms of the numbers of users and also still trying to maintain a standard to protect wildlife. So it's been a crazy year, and we just wanted to acknowledge Morro Bay Paddlesports and Mary and Jim for the work that they have done in this particularly difficult year to protect wildlife. And so we want to present them with the Community Active Wildlife Stewards first ever Steward of the Year for 2020. So thank you so much, Mary, for going above and beyond and being a role model for other businesses and helping to protect all of the wildlife of Morro Bay. Thank you.